The border settlement of Haven's Edge was anything but a haven these days. Smoke curled from the remaining structures, while debris scattered across what had once been a thriving trading post. Nolan wiped grime from his face, adjusting his medic's pack as he picked through the ruins. The Concordiate forces had pushed back the Varen raiders, but as always, they'd left the cleanup to people like him. His scanner beeped faintly. Organic life, weak but present, beneath a collapsed habitat dome. Nolan moved cautiously, shifting aside twisted metal panels until he saw her. Not human, that much was immediately clear from her lavender. Skin with faint luminescent patterns tracing across it like constellations. She was barely conscious, curled protectively around herself. "I found a survivor," Nolan reported through his cum. "Alien. Female, I think. Badly wounded," Leavitt came the response from his supervisor. "Transports only for registered citizens." Nolan switched off his cum. He'd heard that line too many times. 6 years as a frontier medic had taught him that compassion didn't check species designation. He knelt beside her, moving slowly to avoid startling her. "I'm here to help," he said softly. "Can you understand me?" Her eyes opened, solid amber with no visible pupils, regarding him with terror. When she tried to crawl away, Nolan noticed the restraint marks on her wrists. Not a settler, then. A prisoner? A slave? "I won't hurt you," he promised, pulling out a water flask. She watched every movement like a cornered animal. When he reached toward her, she flinched violently, but didn't have the strength to flee. Nolan cleaned the worst of her wounds with gentle precision, noting the strange properties of her blood, slightly luminescent, like her skin markings. "I'm Nolan. I'm taking you somewhere safe," he explained, though he wasn't sure she understood. When he lifted her, she weighed almost nothing, her body trembling against his chest. He carried her to his rover as distant voices called out. Fellow relief workers were approaching, and Nolan knew most shared his supervisor's views on non-humans. "Just hold on," he whispered, placing her carefully on the passenger seat. Her amber eyes stayed fixed on him, bewilderment replacing some of the fear. He covered her with his jacket, hiding her alien features, and started the engine. As they drove away from the settlement, she made a soft chirping sound, her first vocalization. One trembling hand reached out, then withdrew quickly, as if expecting punishment. "It's okay," Nolan said. "We'll figure this out." Her markings pulsed once, illuminating the rover's cabin in soft violet light. Part 2. A language of trust. The first 3 days at Nolan's outpost were a careful dance of mistrust. The alien who Nolan had begun calling. Talia, after finding the word carved on her restraint, Cuff watched his every move from the corner of the recovery room. She refused to sleep while he was present, her luminescent markings dimming to near invisibility when she was frightened. On the 4th day, Nolan returned from gathering supplies to find her examining his medical equipment with delicate 6-fingered hands. She dropped everything when he entered, backing away. "It's all right," he said, setting down his pack. "You can look." He demonstrated a basic tissue regenerator on a cut on his arm. Understanding flickered in her amber eyes. Hesitantly, she approached, touching her own partially healed wound, then pointing to the device. Top progress that night. Nolan woke to find Talia standing beside his bed, her markings glowing softly. Before he could speak, a sensation brushed against his mind, not words exactly, but images. Emotions, confusion, gratitude, question. "You're telepathic," Nolan whispered. Amazed, the next morning, their communication evolved rapidly. Talia projected simple concepts, hunger, pain, safety, while Nolan spoke aloud, finding she understood basic language. Through this strange dialogue, her story emerged. She was Lurian from a distant system. Her kind were hunted for their telepathic abilities and bioluminescent properties. The Varen had raided her colony ship, selling the survivors as living tools for their empathic capabilities. "How long were you enslaved?" Nolan asked. Talia's response came as a mental image. 3 full moons cycling repeatedly. 3 years, he translated, anger rising at what she must have endured. When he checked her healing wounds, their fingers brushed. The telepathic connection flared. stronger than before. Nolan gasped as emotions flooded him, her fear giving way to something warmer, curious. Talia pulled back, markings pulsing rapidly in what he now recognized as embarrassment. "Sorry," he said. "That was—" She reached out again, deliberately this time, her fingertips touching his wrist. The sensation was different, an invitation to understand. Nolan nodded, allowing the connection. Images flowed between them, his childhood on Earth's colonies, her life among crystal forests, his years as a medic, her capture. When their minds separated, something had changed. The fear in her eyes had been replaced by something else. That evening, Talia sat beside him, rather than in her corner. When Nolan offered food, she accepted directly from his hand. After eating, she projected a new feeling: contentment. Threaded with growing trust. "You're safe here," he promised. Her markings brightened in response, illuminating the small outpost in gentle waves of lavender light. The warning came at dawn: a proximity alert from Nolan's perimeter sensors. He checked the monitors to see 3 armored figures approaching through the mist. Their equipment wasn't military or medical bounty hunters, most likely. "We need to go," he told Talia urgently. "People looking for you." Her markings dimmed instantly with fear. Through their growing telepathic bond, he felt her terror recognition of the hunters. Insignia visible on their armor, they slipped out through the maintenance access as the hunters breached the outpost's main door. Nolan led Talia into the wilderness beyond, the dense forest of twisted blue-leaf trees offering cover. Her hand gripped his tightly as they ran, her telepathic presence a constant flutter against his consciousness. "They're tracking your bioluminescence," Nolan realized, when the hunters appeared on the ridge behind them. "Can you suppress it completely?" Talia's markings faded until her skin appeared solid lavender. She projected an image of darkness, then pain. The suppression hurt her. They found shelter in a cave system as night fell. The temperature dropped dangerously, and Nolan pulled Talia close for warmth. She stiffened initially, then relaxed against him. Through their contact, he sensed memories of punishment, of being used as a living tracking device by her captors. "You're not a tool," Nolan whispered fiercely. "You're a person." Her response flowed into his mind, gratitude mixed with something deeper. A flutter of emotion she seemed hesitant to share fully. In the darkness, her control slipped, markings illuminating softly. Rather than panic, Nolan reached out, tracing one glowing pattern across her forearm. Talia's breath caught, amber eyes widening. The telepathic connection between them surged: surprise, pleasure, uncertainty. "Is this okay?" he asked. Her answer came not in images but in movement, her hand rising to his face, fingertips brushing his cheek. The sensation of her mind against his deepened, revealing loneliness on both sides, his isolation as a frontier medic, years of captivity. A sound outside broke the moment. The hunters had found their trail. Moving deeper into the cave system, they discovered an underground river. Nolan fashioned a crude raft from fallen wood. As they drifted downstream in darkness, Talia allowed her markings to glow fully, illuminating their way through the caverns. "You're beautiful," Nolan said softly, watching the patterns shift across her skin. For the first time, Talia attempted speech, her voice melodic but struggling with human sounds. "Nolan." She touched her chest. "Talia." He smiled, taking her hand. Through their connection, he felt her determination not just to survive, but to remain free, and underneath, a growing affection that mirrored his own. The river carried them toward uncertainty, but neither was alone anymore. Beneath alien stars, the underground river deposited them miles from the outpost, in a valley Nolan had never explored. Ancient structures rose from the misremnants of a civilization predating human settlement on this world. The hunters would have difficulty tracking them here. The ruins interfered with scanning technology. As night fell, they took shelter within a crumbling dome. Talia's markings provided gentle illumination as they dried their clothes and shared the limited rations from Nolan's pack. Their telepathic connection had strengthened through constant proximity, allowing increasingly complex communication. "Your people built these?" Nolan asked, gesturing to the ruins. Talia shook her head. Through their bond, she conveyed that these structures were ancient even to Lurians, who had visited this world generations before humans arrived. Her telepathic presence grew more intimate as darkness deepened. She shared memories of her homeworld crystal spires that resonated with Lurian bioluminescence, creating symphonies of light and emotion. She revealed why her people were so valuable. Their telepathic abilities could access technology no other species could control. That's why they hunt you, Nolan realized. Your keys to forgotten technology. Talia nodded sadly. Then, hesitantly, she reached for him, her six-fingered hand intertwining with his five. The connection bloomed between them, not just communication now, but deeper emotion. Nolan felt himself drawn forward, touching his forehead to hers. The telepathic bond flared brilliantly, her consciousness merging with his. No barriers remained between them. He felt her growing love for him, her fear of losing this newfound connection, her wonder at finding tenderness after years of cruelty. I won't let them take you, he promised. Voice hoarse with emotion, her markings pulsed with increasing brilliance as she leaned toward him. Their lips met tentatively, then with growing certainty. The kiss transcended physical sensation through their mental bond. They experienced each other's emotions simultaneously, creating an intimacy beyond what either species knew alone. When they separated, breathless, Talia spoke again, her voice stronger now. Stay, ... together. The ruins around them seemed to respond to her emotions, ancient circuits illuminating faintly, echoing her patterns. Nolan realized these structures were designed for beings like her, telepathic, luminescent. That night, nestled together beneath the dome's fractured ceiling, they watched alien stars through the gaps. Nolan shared his own past, the family he'd lost in frontier conflicts, his choice to become a medic rather than a soldier, his years of solitude. Talia's markings shifted to match the constellations above, her body warm against his. Through their connection, a promise formed unspoken but absolute. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The spaceport at Meridian Bay represented their last hope, a chance for passage off-world, away from the hunters who hadn't abandoned their pursuit. Nolan and Talia approached cautiously, her alien features concealed beneath a hooded cloak, her telepathic senses extended to detect danger. There's a trader leaving for the outer colonies tonight, Nolan explained, studying departure listings. We could, he felt Talia's alarm through their bond before he heard the commotion. Near the security checkpoint, two hunters questioned port officials. Displaying holographic images of Talia's distinctive markings, they retreated to a maintenance corridor. Options dwindling. Talia's telepathic presence was troubled, conflicted. She projected images. Nolan struggled to interpret her continuing alone, him returning to his life. No, he said firmly. We stay together. Her amber eyes held his gaze as she placed both hands on his chest. The full force of her thoughts flowed into him, her love, her gratitude, and her fear that she would be the cause of his death or capture. The hunters wanted her abilities. They would kill him without hesitation. Nolan pulled her close. I chose this, he whispered against her hair. I choose you. Through their connection, a new possibility formed. Talia had been accessing more of her telepathic abilities since finding freedom, including aspects her captors never discovered. She could potentially mask her bioluminescent signature completely, using the mental techniques she'd been practicing. But it would require deepening their bond beyond what they'd experienced. Show me, Nolan said. Talia's markings glowed intensely as she pressed her forehead to his. The telepathic connection transformed, becoming something permanent, a sharing of consciousness that transcended temporary contact. Nolan gasped as her mind entwined with his, feeling the structure of his thoughts, adapting, expanding. When they separated, the bond remained. Talia's markings now pulsed in perfect synchronization with Nolan's heartbeat. Through their connection, he understood they were permanently linked now, parts of each other. I feel you, he whispered, amazed. She smiled fully for the first time. Always. With their enhanced bond, Talia could now completely mask her signature. They approached the departures desk, presenting Nolan's identification. The clerk barely glanced at Talia, seeing only what appeared to be a human woman in traveling clothes, as they boarded the transport for the outer colonies. Nolan felt Talia's joy through their connection. Not just escape, but a future neither had imagined possible weeks earlier. The ship rose through the atmosphere, leaving the hunters behind. Among the stars, their fingers intertwined, telepathic connection humming between them. "Home?" Talia asked, both aloud and mentally. Nolan smiled, feeling the truth of his answer in both their minds. "We already are,"